Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm your host for tonight's show, Rockin Robbie Billups. We got a great one tonight because this is the first out of hopefully many horror interviews. That's right. You know me, I'm a huge horror movie fan, and I'm very excited about this because this is a new movie, and I got a chance to watch it this weekend. And I'm very excited to talk to not just the star, not just the producer, but the director of this film as well. You may know her from Baywatch. You may know her from Celebrity Apprentice. You may know her from The Surreal Life or tons of other things like Starsky and Hutch, tons of roles. But this is all about Wineville tonight. So everybody give a mighty, hearty, warm and welcome station to Brande Roderick. How are you doing?
Hi. I'm doing great. I'm doing good. How are you, Robbie?
I am fantastic. I've been looking forward to this, especially since I watched the movie.
Yes.
So, Wineville, it's
Yeah.
out right now. It's available to stream. I got a link in the description below where everybody can go check it out on Amazon. I definitely think it's worth checking out. Why don't you tell us, first of all, what is Wineville? What's it about? What's the pitch for the movie?
Well, Wineville is a thriller horror. It's based in 1978, and some of the reviews have said it's, reminiscent of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, kind of that feel. But it is a real, like, serial killer story, but it's about real people. It's not like your typical slasher film. It's actually got a real plot and real stories going on, but it's really sick and twisted. As you know, Robbie, this movie is not for the faint at heart by any means. It's definitely sick in the head, but but I wanted to push the envelope and go all the way. So it is hopefully something that people will go in, watch it, and come out going, holy shit, I was not expecting that.
Oh, that's exactly how I felt when I came out of this movie. Brande, I'm not even lying. Like I'm watching this movie. First of all, you sent me the trailer, right? And I was like, I checked out the trailer and I watched it and I was like, that looks really cool. Yeah, let's set something up. And then I watched the movie on Amazon and it blew me away. Like I watch a lot of horror films. I'm a huge fan of horror films. I'm just a huge fan of film in general, right? And when
Yeah.
you watch as many movies as people like us, right, or when you're involved in them, right, like
Mhm.
you wind
Yep.
up knowing kind of the formula, like how it works, right? I did
Yes.
not see any of these twists really coming, and it was gnarly. I love that you mentioned Texas Chainsaw Massacre because that was a vibe I was getting with the look and the
Yeah.
aesthetic. There's a little bit, I think, of Last House on the Left, which we just covered recently. Hills Have Eyes, those 70s Wes Craven films. It's kind of got this like grit and this
Yeah.
like horror texture to it that I
Mhm.
absolutely love. And you push boundaries way more than like a lot of modern horror does. There's
Yeah.
psycho elements to it. I was really, really surprised by how much I enjoyed this movie.
Yeah.
So you did a great job. So was that like was that what you were trying to do then, right? You were trying to like make something 70s-esque.
Absolutely. And I love that you say all of that because all of those were my influences. Last House on the Left was a huge influence for me. Psycho was a huge influence. Obviously, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But going into it, yes, I wanted to shock people and push the envelope, which, as you know, I really pushed it. Um, but I wanted to, when I watch a movie, like my most favorite thing is trying to figure out who the killer is, right? I'm always trying to figure out who it is, who did the crime, and I usually figure it out before the end. And I wanted to create a movie that people would have not have this, not have expected this to happen and not figure it out. And I feel like so far I've accomplished that. And that was my main goal, is to just really shock people with that, with the outcome.
What was the genesis of the project? How did this come about? Like the jump to not just directing your first film, but like full on producing. I know you had done some production work before. You'd done some producing before, but this is the
Yeah.
first one where you were like, this is your baby, right?
Sure, absolutely. It actually started because of COVID, and we were shooting a film. It was actually a Christmas movie, Ace and the Christmas Miracle, and that there weren't like a lot of jobs happening at the time because we were still kind of in the COVID. They weren't letting very many productions, get off and running. So I was like, gosh, if I'm going to like work, I need to create something myself. I'm tired of waiting around. So that kind of started it. And I knew I wanted to do a horror film because that's, I love the genre. I've loved it since I was a kid. My whole family are huge horror film freaks. And so I knew I wanted to do that. And then it kind of started with my friend, Dominic, who owns Galliano Winery, which is the oldest winery in Southern California. And it really was built in the early 1900s. So it has that kind of really cool, even though it's a beautiful winery, it has that like creepy, spooky factor because everything's old. All the old barns, all the old farm equipment, everything's old. So I went there with the writer and we just kind of walked the property and we knew what the premise was going to be. We knew I was going to be the female lead. I knew my son was going to be in the movie playing my son. And so we were trying to do a really character-driven film where a mother would do anything and everything to protect her son. So it kind of started from that and the location, and we just went crazy with our imagination. And as you know, got really sick with it, really sick in the head with everything. And plus the chicken coop murders actually were on the street, Wineville, where we shot the movie, which was right there. So we had that whole scenario and story going on, in the back of our heads as well.
Yeah, that's like a real like sequence of events that happened like in the 20s or something like that, right?
Yes, and where we shot, so that town was called Wineville, and which is why we wanted to keep the name Wineville. But because the press and PR was so bad from those murders, it was a serial killer man that was killing young children and doing horrible things to them, to little boys. But because it was so bad that they had to change the name of the town, so they changed it to Muraloma. But originally it was called Wineville.
Was the fact that you had access to this place, was that the start of this? Like, and then you developed the story, or did you develop the story and then happen to find where you were going to shoot it?
No, we developed the story because of the location and the characters and the story, basically, of the whole chicken coop murders, that whole vibe, everything being there. That's where it all started first, and then we came up with the script.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, that's how a lot of these like cool indie horror movies happen, right? You're like, oh, we have access to a mall. What if we put zombies in this mall, or something like that, like Romero's Day of the Dead.
Yeah. You have to do that when you're an independent film and you don't have, $50 billion, for everything. You have to, go with what you have. So that's a great way for filmmakers to save money, as you figure out first where you're even able to shoot, and then you kind of create your story wrapped around that.
Yeah. Your story, so it does push boundaries, like you got some gory moments, you got some things that could be considered slightly subversive or transgressive in the movie, especially compared to modern horror films. Mm-hmm. And we do have like the Terrifier movies, and there are tons of movies that are pushing envelopes, right? Pushing boundaries. But those movies just are there just to shock. You are also telling a great story that is character driven. You got some great characters in this movie. What was the inspiration for that?
Well, we wanted it to be real people, like when you watch The Hills Have Eyes, let's say, it's like they're kind of like not real people. They're inbred, but they're, you know what I mean? They don't seem like real. I wanted it to be like, what? This could have been a family that you knew. This could have been your family. Like, I wanted it to feel real, not fake, like that people could really believe that this could happen, and wanted it to be and we wanted them to have, backstory of why they're that way, right? Like, we tell the story of why they're so messed up. We don't just show that they're messed up. We show how they got that way. And I think that's important, right? When you're trying to develop characters. And I didn't want it to be just a slasher. I really wanted it to have grit and story and for it to be character driven.
Yeah, because even like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, one of the classics, right? I think it just like celebrated its 50th anniversary just like yesterday. Actually, I think was its 50th the anniversary of its release. But like, let's be honest, like none of those kids are interesting characters, really. You know, they're just there to kind of like run around and get killed off and stuff like that. And then if you met the Sawyer family in real life, you would get out of there. You know what I'm saying? But there is a realism here, right? And you're dealing with like I don't want to spoil the film, but you're dealing with some elements of trauma, right? That's going on. And your character, Tess, that she has taken that trauma and she has become a very, very strong fighting woman who she's never a damsel in distress in this movie. That was great. And your performance was really solid on that.
Thank you. Yeah. You know, and with trauma, you can go two ways, right? It can either make a person really strong and, you know, make them just go further in life and have strength, or it can make someone a victim and weak and, you know, possibly have mental issues or drug problems or who knows, you know what I mean? You go one or two ways, and her character, you know, ended up, you know, building strength from what had happened to her. So.
And then your son in the movie is your son in real life, right?
Yeah.
He plays, is it Walter who he plays?
Yes.
Is that the character's name?
Yeah.
He is fan-freaking-tastic. Like, let's not kayfabe around here. Most kids in horror movies suck. You know what I'm saying? It's like my buddy Jelani hates kids in movies in general, and even he would like his performance in this movie. He did a great job. Was that something you coached him in, or was that just natural to him?
Well, you know, he really is natural. But my acting coach I've had for the past 20 years had her come and coach him through some of the scenes. So he definitely got coached prior, because for me, wearing so many hats on set, it was going to be hard for me to try to even, you know, work with him on certain scenes. So I needed him to come to set prepared. Because it wasn't going to be a situation where you could have a ton of takes. You know, this is an independent film. We have to get it done in one take, and then you have your safety take. You're done in 2 takes. So he, you know, definitely prepared with a coach, which was great. And, but yeah, he is a natural too. So there's that element of it as well.
And you shot this in like what, 2 weeks or something?
2 weeks. Yeah.
So like a long road to get there, and then 2 weeks and we got to get it done. That's got to be crazy. And what was it like stepping into the role of the full-on producer, the star, and the director? What was that like, your first time directing a movie, having to wear all of these hats?
You know, it was hard and it was a lot of work. And, you know, we worked 12-hour days and we had an hour drive there and back from home. But that being said, I loved every minute of it. But I'll tell you, there were a lot of curveballs that were thrown my way that I had to I was running around that property nonstop. Then I'd run to be in a scene, then run to help set up another scene, then run to put out a fire. I mean, it was nuts. It was really nuts. And if I ever do it again, I won't direct it, or I won't give myself such a big role. So if I want a big role, I won't direct it. If I want to direct it, I'll give myself a tiny little role. And then, you know, producing again, all by myself, that for the most part, that was tough. That was, you know, that was rough, you know, running around like crazy.
So your writing partner in this movie was Richard Shankman, right?
Yes. Yep.
How did his involvement get started?
You know, he was referred to us by, well, our second AD, our first AD referred us to somebody, and that person referred us to Richard Shankman, which I'm so thankful and grateful for, because Richard now has become such a dear friend of mine. But he, you know, he's just such an amazing storyteller, and I love the script, and, you know, his help, he's an amazing director. And, you know, he did the Lincoln versus Zombies and Man from Earth and so many fantastic films. But he was my mentor through the whole thing. I couldn't have done it without him. So he was there by my side through everything when we were on set.
Nice. And one of my favorite things about your movie, especially compared to other modern day horror films, is that y'all are really leaning into practical effects. And the practical effects are amazing. There's some really gnarly kills in this movie. There's some
Yeah.
really great makeup. For instance, you make who plays Margaret? It's Carolyn Hennessy, right?
Yeah.
When I looked her up, I was like, oh, she's not that old at all. Like I knew in the movie she was wearing a wig, which kind of comes into play, right? But
Yeah.
like, man, she is fantastic. And the makeup on her, the makeup in the kills, that was crazy. Was that important to do it practically? Because most people now, even in small productions, they're like, oh, we'll just CG it. We'll do it in post. It's cheaper. It's easier that way. But you really committed to that 70s horror aesthetic, I think.
Well, and I talked to some really big time horror film producers, and they said, Brandy, if you want to really capture true horror fans, you have to go practical. True horror fans don't like the CGI, they want practical. So I listened, and it just so happened I was just so lucky because I did a horror film called Snoop Dogg's Hood of Horror. And
That's right. Yeah. Oh my goodness. I haven't watched that in forever.
yeah. Well, the gentleman that did the practical effects for that, who is like huge now, he does like every big, huge blockbuster film, Vincent Guastini. I called him and he said, sure, Brandy, I'll do it for you. So I just got so lucky that he would do my small indie film when he's doing all these big films now. So I had like the best guy in town to do my practical effects, which was just amazing.
That's awesome. And they're really good. And there's a lot of twists, there's a lot of turns, and it's not like I don't want to disparage anybody, but it's not like an M. Night Shyamalan type situation where like the twists are there just for the twist's sake, right?
Right.
It really does keep you guessing all the way through, and each twist deepens the level of the story of the movie. And then when you get to the final twist and you're like, this is one of the most fucked up movies I've ever seen. I loved it. It was so good.
Oh, I'm so glad you had that experience. That's exactly what I strive to hear, and I love hearing that. That was the goal.
Good. Yeah. All right. Now here's a question. This is just me just being like, who is Casey King? How did you find him? This dude is so hot in this movie. He is gorgeous, y'all. Like if Henry Cavill needs to take a break from any of his roles, bring this dude in because he's got it. And he's so good in the movie. He's able to play like this like childlike character and a very sinister character, and he's able to handle it so well while being so just hot, Brandy. Like, oh my God.
I know. And you know what? And when we saw his audition, I was like, that's him. Because we wanted Joe to just kind of have that innocence, right? The innocence about him. And he obviously has the beauty. But I told him when we were shooting, I was like, Casey, this movie's going to make you a star. Because when you're looking at the camera and you're seeing what he's doing with his eyes and everything, I'm like, I tell him all the time, this movie's going to make you a star. Because when another director or anyone sees him in this, they're going to be like, we have to have this guy. Like, he just has it. He has the it quality for sure. He's got it all. And in real life, he is so nice. He's just as nice. He's just such a genuine, lovely person.
He's not a dude that's going to take you in the back, make out with you, and then beat the hell out of you for a while. He's not that kind.
I don't know, but no, he's definitely the real deal for sure.
Another performance I really like in this movie is Texas Battle as the sheriff.
Yeah.
Such a like I almost like when I'm watching it, I'm like, this is reminding me of Dewey from Scream. A little bit, right? Like a little bit awkward, stayed in the towns, got a crush. Like y'all had a really charming, fun, kind of cute chemistry together. He was great.
Yes. And hiring him, we're hiring a star, right? He's already so seasoned, done so many movies, and obviously horror films like Wrong Turn. Oh God, what's the other one? The popular one. When your time's up, you're gonna die. Oh, what is that?
What movie?
I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, he's been in 2 really famous horror movies. And he's just such a real, wonderful, genuine person in real life. And we wanted to, hire some actors that are really, professional, that have been in the business. And we knew when we hired him that he's going to come to set prepared, professional, and be ready to go. And that's what we got. And he was just always so pleasant to be around.
He's really good in the movie. He's like super freaking fun. What is the name? Like, if anybody out there in the chat knows the movie that she's talking about.
He's in Wrong Turn. And then the other one, it's where they made like 4 of them. It's like that where it's your time to die, and then you're going to die.
Are you talking about Final Destination or something?
Final Destination. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Is he in the first Final Destination?
I don't know which one he was in, but he was in one of them. Yeah.
Man, I haven't seen Final Destination in a while. I'm going to be at Scarefest this year, which I know you were at Scarefest last year, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Oh, I wish we would have known each other then, and I could have swung by your booth and said, "What's up?" You were promoting the movie?
Yeah, I was there promoting the movie. We actually were in the film festival, and my film won Best Kill. So at Scarefest Festival. So,
what kill was it?
It was I won't say what it was, but I would say the first kill.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a pretty good one.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm really surprised by this movie. Like, not surprised, but like it did surprise me, honestly. Like, I'll say that. Like, you watch so much horror movies and you're like, oh, there's a new one coming out, whatever. No, this one, you really went for it, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's so many movies, and I hate to use this word, but a lot of these modern movies are soft. You know what I'm saying? And this one is not. And you delivered on what horror fans want, and you actually exceeded that because of like I said, the characters, the look and vibe of the film. It is unlike anything I've seen. Like, as far as the story in particular, you did a really great job on this. Was that important? That was intentional though, right? You were trying to do that.
100%. Absolutely. Everything for this whole process has been intentional. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. No other way, right?
Right. And I'm glad that you get it and you got that reaction from it, because I do worry a little bit that, horror fans are so used to, like, they want to like be, have all the jump scares and go right from the beginning. But even though we have that great kill in the beginning, it's really in the first, 20 minutes of the movie, we're really telling the story, right? We really want you to understand the characters and really building up the story before it really gets going. So people just have to be a little patient. It's not your typical, I'm going to slash around and kill, have 20 kills in the movie.
Yeah, you do. You take that time to build a relationship between Tess and her son, and then slowly start revealing why she left her home at a young age. And it gets really messed up. And, like, to be honest, with all the gore, all the crazy twists, there's one scene involving Margaret and young Joe that had me like, what? And you know what I'm talking about, because I was like, you gotta be kidding me. This movie's awesome.
I know. And you know what? It's so funny because the whole time Richard and I were coming up with the story, going back and forth. And when this one was Richard's idea of all the ones. Like, I had some of the other crazy ones, but this one was his idea. I was like, Richard, he really had to convince me, because I do have children, and, so he had to really, really convince me on that one. But I'm so glad he did, because people have that reaction. They're like, what? You went there? But yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and to go, because like I said, usually you have these movies that they go there, but they don't have the substance to back it up. This is a movie that has the substance. It's in, like, whether it's the theme, the characters, and the theme is very, very powerful about, like, our past trauma does wind up defining us, but it's up to us to decide how it defines us. And right, like you kind of talked about that a little bit. Was that very important to you, that theme?
Absolutely. I mean, it's you didn't want to just have, these things happening just because, like you were saying, the shock value, although we want to shock, but it had to come from a deeper reason of why this is happening. And we wanted to explain why these things are happening. So yeah, that was really important.
So do you have the bug now? Do you want to keep making movies on your own, doing it your own style without anybody telling you can or can't do something? Is that something that you want to do now?
100%. I love having, and I hope this doesn't come out wrong. I don't want to say like I love having all the control, but there is something to be said about having all the control. And if something is not successful, then you only have yourself to blame, right? It's like you did everything you could. You did exactly what you want to do. When you're doing another project and it's like, oh, that didn't come out right. There's other people, to blame and, whatnot. But I prefer to just do it my way. And if it doesn't work out, hey, I know that I did everything the way I wanted to do it. So I would prefer to do things myself. However, I'm still, doing films, as an actress for other people. I'm starting another film next month called The Treehouse. It's a horror film. So I'm still working for other people, but I'm also still creating my projects. But I can only do, one at a time with my projects because of all my other work.
Yeah, we talk to a lot of writers here because we cover movies, but we also cover comic books and stuff, right? So we talk with a lot of comic book writers, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, it's nice to work for DC, it's nice to work for Marvel and these big properties and stuff, but you always got to have something." Rom V, one of my favorite people in this world, he's a writer, and he said, "You always got to have your own thing cooking at the same time, because what's the point of anything if you're not actually able to do it for yourself and artistically express what you want to?" And you went ham on this one, Brande. I loved it. I'm telling y'all, I see Two Gun Pedro out there in the chat. You will love this film if you haven't watched it already. Fable, you should check it out. Perry, you should do it and do one of your famous internet reactions, man. Perry, by the way, Brande, is the guy who allegedly has never seen any of these movies. So he's like always doing like first time authentic reactions on YouTube to things. And you're like, you haven't seen Back to the Future? What's wrong with you?
Oh my gosh. He could do a lot of reactions in my film.
Yes, I think so for sure.
A lot of scenes do that.
So you got another horror movie that you're going to be a part of. When you are like embarking on your next project where it's like you, right? And in like a small group of collaborators, right?
Yeah.
Is it going to be horror? Are you wanting to do something different in a different genre? Do you like comedy, sci-fi? What else would you like to do?
It's so funny because I freaking love comedy. I love comedy. And I think it would be cool to do something lighter, but every idea I have in my idea book is a sick and twisted, demented movie. I'm like,
you found your wheelhouse, Brande. Go with it.
And that's just the way it is. And, but I love comedy. I love writing hilarious things too. So, but I'll do both. But I have so much in my head. I have so many ideas and so many cool, like horror thriller type stories, but I also have the comedy too, which is kind of funny. They're so polar opposites, but yeah, maybe a horror comedy. I don't know.
Right. They work very, very well. And whatever your next project you embark on, please send us a link. Let us know what's going on, because we here now are full on fans of Brande Roderick's filmmaking at PCP. 100%. Absolutely.
Well, I would love it if everybody would go watch the movie. You can see it on Amazon or Apple. And I also am doing something really fun on social media. So if somebody takes a picture of themselves, either watching the movie or even take a picture of a movie review they did, they could do either one. Then I will shout them out on my social media. So
yeah, and if you watch the movie, leave a review. Like if you watch on Amazon, leave a review. That stuff really helps. People don't even realize it, but it really does, right?
No, and most people don't, like if anyone could go on, Apple, Fandango, IMDb, thumbs up, stars, rate it, review it. I mean, it really makes a huge difference. So I would really be appreciative of that.
Absolutely. Well, I got the Amazon link down in the description below. Now, one thing though, Brande, about us horror fans, we're big fans of physical media. Is this available on physical media?
Yes, it's going to be ready actually this Friday. So if you go to winevillemovie.com, I'm selling autographed copies. If you don't want an autographed copy, you can just get one on Amazon. But yeah, they're ready. We've got the actor auditions. We have behind the scenes. We have the character interviews. So yeah, it's a really fun DVD. But
you got special features, man. You know what we want. You know what the community wants, and that's special features, physical media, and gnarly, cool, crazy, fun stuff. Before we get out of here, though, I got to break away from Wineville for just a second. What's Jason Momoa like? What's it like working with Jason Momoa, yo? I love Jason Momoa. I think he's the coolest.
You know what? He is like one of the sweetest persons I've ever known. The most, the biggest heart. He's such a wonderful guy, and he's so funny. He's like a little kid. So he's awesome, which was so great because when I saw him in Aquaman in the first one, where I don't know if you guys remember, but there's the scene in the beginning where he's at the bar and he's having fun, and then he kind of gets in a fight and he's got these laughing thing, you know, his facial expressions. I'm like, that's Jason. That's exactly him. So I felt like he was being himself. He was being the big kid that he is with these smiles on his face. And I'm just so proud of him and so excited for him that he's, you know, blown up the way he has, because he's really, if anyone's earned it, it's him, because he's just such a genuine, wonderful person.
Oh, he was my favorite part of that last Fast and Furious movie. I thought he just chewed so much scenery in that. Like you feel the love for what he does in his films right now. I love it. I think that's great. So thank you for sharing that, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, everybody go watch Wineville right now. It's super cool. Probably something we'll be covering on a PCP movie night at some point, because I got to get my homies to check out this movie and I want to have a discussion. So Brande, thank you so much. I know you're busy. You got things to do, but thank you for taking the time and joining us here in the PCP Army. And you can find you're on Instagram, the Wineville website, all that stuff.
Yeah, my name, Brande Roderick, and then also Wineville Movie. Follow us both.
All right. Well, we're dipping out, y'all. Thank you so much.